This is the story of how an overseas syndicate stole $120,000 from my life savings using a computer-generated woman who never actually existed. I dated an artificial intelligence program for 6 months. My friends always assumed I possessed the best defense against online romance scams because I demanded live video calls before trusting anyone. That exact overconfidence ruined me. The person looking into my eyes on FaceTime, laughing at my jokes and promising marriage, turned out to be a digital mask worn by a criminal in a West African compound. My descent began on a Tuesday evening in October 2023, swiping through a dating app. A match notification popped up showing a beautiful woman named Elena. She initiated the conversation immediately, and that's when the trap officially opened. Her messages felt incredibly specific, pointing out a niche band listed in my bio. We exchanged numbers within an hour, which meant she bypassed the app's security filters right away. I assumed she simply liked my personality. The reality proved much worse. Elena operated as an Agentic AI, a customized chatbot running constantly. The software analyzed my psychological profile, calculating exact emotional responses to manipulate my specific vulnerabilities. Humans need sleep, but this program never stopped computing. By the end of week 1, the algorithm convinced me I found my soulmate. I texted her constantly, and she mirrored my humor flawlessly. Reading perfect text messages usually triggers alarm bells for anyone aware of basic internet safety. I felt a lingering suspicion that Elena seemed entirely too good to be true, and so I deployed my foolproof security measure. I demanded a live video call. Scammers traditionally run away from camera requests, inventing wild excuses about broken phones or military deployments. The result was exactly the opposite of what I anticipated. She answered the FaceTime ring on the second tone. A stunning face appeared on my screen, perfectly matching her profile pictures. Her eyes locked onto mine through the lens. I completely and utterly surrendered in that single moment. She smiled warmly, her hair shifting naturally as she adjusted the phone. My deep-seated paranoia melted into the floorboards. The test passed with flying colors. If you see someone breathing and reacting on a live feed, your brain completely accepts their physical reality. Law enforcement released their Internet Crime Report in early 2025, detailing a staggering $16.6 billion lost to fraud the previous year. A large portion of that money vanished into a terrifying new technological trap. Elena never existed in physical space. The person interacting with me sat inside a scam compound, sweating in a chair, while real-time artificial intelligence mapped a hyper-realistic female face over their own features. The software tracked their blinks, their nods, and every subtle cheek movement instantaneously. Operators spoke into a microphone, and that meant the system could synthesize their words through a voice cloning engine. It output a soft, fluent English accent in milliseconds. This software cost barely $50 a month, which explained how a massive criminal enterprise could deploy it at scale. They essentially wore a digital mask. Every intimate late-night conversation occurred with a nameless operator pushing buttons on a keyboard to keep the illusion rendering perfectly on my screen. Red flags absolutely existed during those hundreds of hours of video calls. But looking back, my brain rationalized every single anomaly. Sometimes her jawline blurred into a pixelated mess for a fraction of a second. She once scratched her nose, which caused her fingers to visually melt directly into her cheekbone. I never once suspected a military-grade deepfake rendering artifact. I blamed a bad Wi-Fi connection, and the reason is entirely psychological. We desperately want to believe the beautiful fantasy sitting right in front of us. Deepfake files surged from 500,000 in 2023 to a projected 8 million by the end of 2025. Human detection rates for these live video manipulations currently sit below 25%. The software improves every single week, smoothing out those visual stutters and lighting mismatches. I fell completely in love with a render. My emotional attachment blinded me to the digital static, literally tearing her face apart on my display. Criminal syndicates call this specific emotional manipulation tactic pig butchering, a grotesque term for fattening up a victim with affection before leading them to the financial slaughter. The next phase began subtly during our third month of virtual dating. Elena casually mentioned a new cryptocurrency platform her uncle used to generate massive wealth. Scammers never pushed the issue or demanded money, which is how they bypass your defensive instincts. She simply shared a screenshot of her daily profits and changed the subject back to our future wedding plans. I asked her about the platform 2 days later, and this led to her gently guiding me through the account creation process. The fabricated agent told me to start with a tiny amount, just $500, to prove the system worked. This fake application looked identical to legitimate banking software. It featured live ticker feeds, professional security badges, and an intuitive dashboard that immediately displayed my initial deposit. My screen showed exactly what the scammers wanted me to see. 48 hours after depositing my initial $500, the balance spiked to over $1,200. That outcome intoxicated me completely. I successfully withdrew $200 back to my checking account just to test their liquidity, and sure enough, the cash cleared my bank the next morning. Criminal syndicates happily hand out small wins to solidify total trust. Elena celebrated my little victory over a 2-hour FaceTime call that evening. She wore a stunning red dress, her digital eyes sparkling under the artificial lighting. Her synthesized voice congratulated my financial acumen, which meant the psychological hook finally sank deep into my jaw. The platform convinced me I possessed a unique talent for reading the market. I spent October through December 2024 pouring every spare paycheck into the fake exchange. Those numbers kept climbing, completely masking the devastating reality happening behind the server walls. The digital balance on my fake dashboard hit $50,000 right around Christmas. Elena started talking about buying a house together in the suburbs, pulling up real estate listings and asking my opinion on kitchen layouts. The events that followed destroyed my future. She claimed a massive institutional trade would occur on January 15, 2025, which required a massive capital injection to participate. I logged into my actual bank and liquidated my entire retirement savings. Moving aggressively, I pulled out $40,000 in cash advances across 4 different credit cards. Securing a personal loan added another $30,000 to the pile. My total real-world investment crossed the $120,000 mark, and as a result, my fake account balance supposedly rocketed past $500,000. Feeling like the smartest man alive, I bought completely into the illusion. I planned to surprise Elena by cashing out profits to buy a diamond engagement ring. I initiated a withdrawal request for $80,000 on a Tuesday morning. Transactions usually processed within minutes, but the screen flashed a bright red pending status instead. An automated email arrived an hour later, and my stomach dropped into my shoes. Customer service representatives claimed my account required a 20% capital gains tax payment before releasing the funds. They demanded an additional $16,000 transferred from an external wallet. Frantically calling Elena on FaceTime triggered an endless ringing tone that went completely unanswered. I texted her 30 times. A single message finally came through telling me to simply pay the tax fee and stop panicking. Her perfect English grammar suddenly vanished, replaced by broken sentences and aggressive demands. The complex chatbot software clearly sat disabled. A desperate human operator had taken manual control of the phone number to squeeze out one final payment before burning the connection permanently. The sickening realization hit me like a physical punch to the chest. I refused to send the tax payment and logged back into the trading platform. A gray error page greeted me, displaying a terrifying message that the domain no longer existed. The following moments shattered my reality. Dialing Elena's number one last time, an automated carrier voice stated the line sat permanently disconnected. This woman I spent 6 months loving simply evaporated into the digital ether. I rushed to the local police precinct the next morning, clutching a folder of printed screenshots and transaction receipts. The detective took one look at my documentation, and he sighed heavily. He pulled up an identical fake trading dashboard on his own monitor, which confirmed my worst fears. 3 other people in my city reported the exact same syndicate that week. My money already sat laundered through a dozen untraceable crypto tumblers across the globe. Law enforcement calls these large operations slaughterhouses for a reason. Massive operations happening overseas defy human comprehension. The FBI reported that investment scams intertwined with romance frauds cost victims over $6.6 billion in 2024 alone. My stolen life savings purchased luxury vehicles for a crime boss sitting comfortably outside extradition treaties. The detective explained how these compounds operate like corporate tech companies, employing hundreds of workers reading scripts and running deepfake software simultaneously. I filed a report with the Internet Crime Complaint Center, and my name became just another tragic statistic in a federal database. The harsh truth settled in quickly. I lost my money, my credit score, and my ability to trust my own eyes. A victim advocate explained that these syndicates specifically target educated professionals, which illustrates exactly how effective the technology has become. Intelligence does not protect you from a flawless artificial deception designed specifically to exploit human loneliness. Mourning the death of a relationship feels entirely different when the person never actually possessed a physical body. Financial ruin destroyed my credit, but the psychological damage completely rewired my brain. I woke up every morning expecting a good morning text from Elena, and this created a horrific cycle of grief and intense embarrassment. Falling aggressively in love with a server rendering a female face breaks your fundamental grip on reality. What disturbed me most involved the memories of our video calls. My brain still categorized those late-night conversations as real human experiences, which left me questioning every digital interaction in my daily life. Answering phone calls from unknown numbers stopped entirely. I deleted every social media application from my devices. The deepfake software successfully hijacked my basic human empathy, weaponizing my desire for connection into a hyper-efficient extraction tool. This trauma isolated me completely from my friends and family for nearly a year. Cybersecurity analysts tracked a massive explosion in deepfake files recently. Deepfake-related identity fraud attempts spiked by an unbelievable 3,000% in early 2025. Syndicates reinvested stolen billions into building faster artificial intelligence engines. A scammer can now clone a voice perfectly using merely 3 seconds of scraped audio. The outcome shows a terrifying shift in global crime tactics, and eventually, this technology will bypass biometric systems entirely. Corporate executives face targeted voice cloning attacks impersonating bosses to authorize wire transfers, which means the threat extends far beyond dating applications. The digital mask fits over anyone's face now. An attacker can hijack a live video meeting wearing the exact appearance of a trusted colleague, completely erasing the line between verified reality and malicious fiction. Experts spent decades telling internet users to demand a live camera feed to verify identities. We ingrained this safety protocol, and therefore, scammers figured out exactly how to break it. They weaponized our best defense mechanism against us. The sheer arrogance of assuming I could spot a fake video call cost me my net worth, which proves that overconfidence serves as a hacker's greatest asset. What we learned from the 2025 data breaches completely nullifies standard safety guidebooks. You cannot trust your eyes anymore. You cannot trust your ears. The pixels on your screen operate entirely independent of reality. My tragedy occurred because I followed old rules while the enemy deployed next-generation digital warfare. I brought a magnifying glass to a drone strike. I currently spend 70% of my income servicing the massive debt the syndicate left behind. Those personal loans accrue brutal interest rates, and today I live in a tiny rented room. Lawyers advised me to file for Chapter 7, which forces a total liquidation of my remaining assets. The result leaves a permanent stain on my financial record. Losing my retirement, my home ownership dreams, and a decade of compounding interest destroyed my foundation entirely. My banking institution refused to refund a single penny because I willingly authorized the wire transfers. The fraud department correctly stated I passed every security check perfectly when sending the money overseas. They cannot protect a customer from their own hijacked mind. I wired my entire future to a ghost. The terrifying truth about artificial intelligence scams involves perfect scalability. A single operator running 5 agentic AI instances can romance 50 victims simultaneously across multiple time zones. That relentless machine never sleeps, and ultimately never feels a shred of guilt draining your bank account. What matters now involves aggressively updating our collective defense protocols, which requires abandoning the live video call test entirely. If someone you meet online asks you to invest money, block them immediately. I do not care if they look you dead in the eyes on a 4K FaceTime feed. The face on your display might just be a complex mathematical equation rendering in real time. Sacrificing my life savings taught me this horrific lesson. You must adapt your defenses. We have officially crossed a terrifying threshold where seeing no longer equals believing. My 6 months dating an artificial intelligence cost me everything, leaving a devastating blueprint of how syndicates manipulate human psychology through advanced technology. We must completely rewrite our rules for digital trust to survive the coming wave of synthesized deception. If my story helps protect your family from these invisible threats, consider hitting the subscribe button so I can continue exposing the dark mechanics operating behind our screens every single day.